All right. Hey guys, it's Alexander Creek, Astrologer Intuitive. We're going to be talking about the full moon in Capricorn. Some of this might be a review if you watch the monthly forecast for July. But I was going to sleep last night and I was like, I feel like I need to do a live on YouTube and talk about this full moon. And we're also going to be talking about a little forecast for each of the rising signs, or I should say, maybe not forecast since it's happening right now, but a little like review, a little check in for each of the rising signs. So, we have, first of all, let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so this full moon was at 18 Capricorn. It's about 20 Capricorn, so it's been, it was about 2 hours ago that it went exact. But that full moon energy is in effect for a couple days still. And I'm recording this on Thursday, July 10th. So when we think of so anytime that we have a full moon, the sun and the moon are in opposition. So we're in Cancer season. So it's always going to be in that opposite sign of Capricorn is when we have this full moon during Cancer season. A Capricorn full moon, oftentimes, usually we are talking about like achievement, deadlines, kind of getting real about things, getting practical, kind of digging in and doing it. Cancer energy is like, oh, it's intuitive, it's about your emotions. And Capricorn is like, who gives a fuck about your emotions? Is that thing done? Let's get realistic about this project. And there is definitely some of that energy in the air, but this full moon is a little wonkier, I think, than usual. Simply because this full moon is ruled by Saturn, and specifically Saturn in its fall. Saturn is about to go retrograde, and it's also conjunct Neptune retrograde. So any Capricorn full moon is going to be ruled by Saturn, the planet of limitation, of boundaries, of constriction, of what is practical. It's tradition and elders and like very serious things and structures, and kind of looking at like these structures of life is what Saturn is very interested in. Saturn is the Lord of time. Some astrologers also connected to like the concept of like karma. And when we have, and so when we look at a full moon in Capricorn, we're going to be looking at the condition of Saturn. So Saturn here is, like I mentioned, it's in its fall, which essentially one way of putting that is it's in a sign that it has some kind of unique challenges in. It's not a Saturn and being in the sign of Aries, the sign that sort of wants to just do it. It just wants to take initiative and it just wants to start it now and do it now. Aries can be kind of an impulsive sign. Saturn is not an impulsive planet. Saturn is about planning and kind of waiting for the exact right time. So Saturn in Aries is kind of an awkward fit. So, so when we have a lunation that is ruled by a planet in detriment or fall, we do have an energy that is just a little bit wonky or kind of wobbly around this full moon. So those typically kind of strong Capricorn signatures of like, I'm going to dig in and do it and kind of get organized and practical and get this thing done, or take this like kind of realistic assessment of my life. There's that energy there, but there is this, I'm not going to say not as a successful quality to it. It's just going to add this kind of very different energy to this full moon in Capricorn. And also Saturn is going to be stationing retrograde in just a couple days. And as you can see here on the screen, Saturn is also really close to Neptune. It's not an exact conjunction. These two are kind of edging us a little bit, and that exact conjunction doesn't happen until I believe next year in 2026. And this alignment in particular is a very kind of important aspect when looking at the energy of kind of what is going on in the collective. Because if Saturn represents structures and it represents like the way that things have always been done, Saturn in Aries is saying that we're going in. Saturn in Aries, number one, is saying it's time for like a new way. It's maybe time for like youthful people or new voices to be in leadership. But Saturn's connection to Neptune is really kind of indicating that some of these structures that we are used to in our lives and in our society are going away. That because Neptune represents this principle of dissolving these structures, or like there I do feel like this is like a transformation into something new, but first it's going to be kind of confusing, it's foggy, and these things that we are normally kind of used to as being this very kind of stable structure, stable order, is that's changing right now. One of A classic um, configuration of Saturn and Neptune in the past that's actually in my birth chart, because I was born around this time, would be the Saturn and Neptune conjunction in 1989 when the Berlin Wall fell. And, Saturn representing order and structure, Neptune kind of representing like dissolution, or dissolving this big structure. That I believe happened in November 1989. So if you're born in 89 or early 90, you have this aspect kind of built into your birth chart. So this might be kind of a more interesting time for you just to kind of be alive. But so if we look at this full moon kind of being ruled by this aspect, it's like maybe these structures that are in your life right now might be just changing. And especially looking at the Capricorn house where this is happening. And because obviously that's going to be a big theme as to where we're feeling maybe a release or ending or completion of something in our Capricorn house, but also really paying attention to our Aries house, because every single one of our birth charts, we all have 12 houses. We all have Aries somewhere in our birth chart. Even if we don't have any planets in Aries, we have a life area that is going to be ruled by that sign. And I will go into that with each of these sign by sign forecasts, because that Aries house, there's a little explanation point around it as to looking at like, okay, maybe there's some structures here that are starting to change. Maybe we don't have the resources that we need. Maybe we're just sort of changing the way that we do things. Cosmic Girl 101. Hey, from Australia, you have a natal waning gibbous moon in Capricorn. Oh, okay. So so we have a Capricorn moon kind of clocking in here. Absolutely. I'd say, I've been saying happy full moon. Happy full moon. I'm not sure if it's happy necessarily with with this particular moon in Capricorn, but sending you good full moon greetings just in case, and make sure you stick around for your rising sign forecast as well. So let's go ahead and let's get into some of these forecasts. I do want to mention too, before I even jump into this, please also note the house that you have Gemini. You can also refer back to my July monthly forecast where I talked about Uranus going into Gemini. I am going to do a future video on Uranus. Like what if it aspects your sun in your birth chart, or your moon, or your Mercury, or your Venus, kind of what that means. Because Uranus, the planet of change and revolution and disruption, has gone into Gemini, and that is a major, major shift. That is going to be from July through November of this year, July 7th through November 7th or November 8th. And then that's going to go back into Taurus and finish out its time in Taurus. But it's going to be a major time, I think, for United States in world history, and also just some definite significant developments in the communication technology and how we all talk to each other and how we all get around. And it's really going to stimulate your Gemini house in your chart. And if you have any mutable planets, Pisces, Gemini, Sagittarius, or Virgo, like 0 to 2 degrees, maybe even 3 degrees, you're going to feel some of that restless energy, or that need to change, or that need to bring in like a new way of doing things with Uranus going into Gemini this year through these couple months. It's just a preview. But if you have planets at those really early degrees, you're going to get that exact kind of hit. So let's go ahead and look at these. Let's go ahead and look at the new moon forecast here. So let's start with Aries. Just zip back to Aries really quick. I don't know if it's going to change on my screen, but we're going to go ahead and clock out of here. Okay, cool. So first of all, let's go ahead and share my screen again. I don't know if it's going to actually do it, but let's do it. Okay, so Aries rising. Oh my God, hi Anna. I know. Yes. What a time to be alive on this earth. I so um and if you know your rising sign, pay attention to your rising sign when it comes up as well. But you need to know your birth time for that. But I hope you're doing well. So okay, so let's go ahead and talk about the full moon of Capricorn for Aries rising. And again, I don't have your exact birth chart in front of me. This is going to kind of be like a general read for each of these signs, but definitely using your rising sign is kind of like a best bet if you're kind of viewing any kind of if you're viewing like any kind of horoscope, essentially. So and if we have an Aries rising in the comments, check in. So Aries rising. So this is an angular full moon for you. It's happening in your 10th house. 10th house being career, authority figures, your public and professional reputation. This also could be things connected to, like, I don't know, like your partner's parents. We could say like in-laws are also here too, because this is the fourth house from your seventh house being partnership, and fourth house being family. So, but generally career themes, what you are known for, authority figures. So again, this full moon maybe not particularly being about like a harvest, but it could be about like letting something go, or some kind of like transition here. So the moon is probably going to be plugging into these maybe like career themes for you. What is sort of looking at like um what is it that that people know you for, something connected to like your achievements, or kind of what you are putting out into the world. It could be this could be very mundane. It could be like, oh, there's maybe I've seen 10th house literally be workplace, even though 6th house can be workplace as well. But 10th house can definitely be just stuff kind of going on with work. So it could be like a boss leaving. It could be maybe you're just feeling like a little unsatisfied, a little bored. Aries, you are going through, I think, maybe some major some of you are going through major internal changes, specifically if your Aries placements or your Aries rising falls in these really early degrees, because you have Saturn and Neptune in your sign. And granted, Saturn and Neptune are right kind of in the early degrees of Aries. But Saturn and Neptune here can kind of feel like, yes, there's this sort of new major stage of life coming, in particular having to do with your identity, with your expression, with your physical body, with physical health and vitality, and kind of your attitude and approach to life. But it may be a little bit like, maybe a little confusing, or not knowing exactly what the details are going to be. But if you have your rising sign or your Aries placements at these very early degrees, there's definitely some really interesting astrology going on for you here. So for you, Aries rising, I would say this is a pretty active full moon. Um, Again, maybe transitions or endings kind of coming through with career, with boss, with authority figures, or with just maybe feeling a shift in kind of how you are sort of like putting yourself out there, or what you are known for, as far as your identity goes. I do want to mention Uranus has shifted into your third house recently as well. So third house is a lot. This is many topics, but the way you think, what you're interested in learning, what you are communicating about, things about your local environment where you are living. There's some restless energy here. There's some disruptive energy, or things are sort of changing in that regard. It could be that you're interested in like learning new subjects. You could be feeling like an itch to do a little bit of travel, or to get around in a new way, or to just sort of engage your mind in a completely different way with Aries rising. So Taurus rising. Hold on. All right, Taurus rising. We have the full moon for you is falling in the ninth house. This would be so this part of your chart is connected to your belief system, your personal philosophy. It's sort of connected to higher mind and spirituality, anything divination related, tarot and astrology. higher education. It also has to do with like media and broadcasting as well, or publishing. So any of those topics could be more activated for you during this full moon in Capricorn. It could be maybe we are changing our belief system somehow, or really paying more attention to it, or maybe what we've always thought about the world is like a little, like a little shaky, or we're sort of changing what we think about it. There could be some sort of transition or ending connected to an education, connecting to like an educational endeavor. It could also be just that there's something going on with like travel for you right now as well, or in the coming days. Just because ninth house can be more kind of long distance travel, or just kind of giving a feeling of like going somewhere that you haven't been before. Um, and again, this is ruled by Saturn. Saturn, that's about to station retrograde, connected to Neptune in your 12th house. So that's a harder read because this is much more internal. Saturn in Aries, kind of going through your 12th house. This kind of may be about like needing to sort of eject or confront like any long held subconscious fears, any sort of outdated belief systems, because Saturn can kind of represent our fears. Neptune can be about like illusions or what isn't real as well. So like, 12th house being connected to like mental and spiritual health. I kind of feel like there is maybe some internal, maybe purging going on with you. So that's kind of what I got for Taurus. I do want to mention Uranus. Uranus is moving into your second house of finances and money. So you could be looking at new ways of making money, of how you invest or how you spend. I did mention too, I definitely would, if you're Taurus rising or Scorpio rising for that matter, it's time to kind of start putting some extra money in savings, because Uranus can be disruption. So it could be like, oh, we are making a lot of money, but then, this could be about something happens and then we have to spend money as well. So you want to just make sure that you have a little bit extra going on within your savings accounts, not to hoard money or be in fear, but just to be a little bit prepared, especially because Taurus rising really likes security. Cosmic Girl, you are welcome. All right, Gemini rising. We'll get to Uranus in your sign in just a moment here. This full moon for you falls in the 8th house. So this could sort of highlight a financial emphasis for you with this full moon of Capricorn. We could be looking at there could be we could be really decisive or making practical decisions, or something coming up that's sort of relating to a transition or ending within our finances, specifically money that we share with other people, investments, loans, credit cards, grants, financial aid, any of those things that are not like a direct paycheck that we earn would be considered to be 8th house money. So again, this is kind of a, funky full moon. This could be about maybe like releasing what isn't serving you here. The 8th house can also be emotional trauma, like, because the 8th house being a house of mortality, it's like there could be things connected to like a will, an estate, an inheritance, or simply just kind of like, this is also a very like house of like, psychologists and therapists. And this could be a time where we're, because the sun in Cancer is very kind of focused on our emotions, there could be some kind of release or some kind of letting go or emotional kind of release under this full moon. It also could come back to something related to friends, colleagues, our kind of like our personal and professional network. So anything from like social circles to groups, clubs, organizations, like kind of maybe rethinking our affiliations with those things, or our structures connected to those things. If you have like a social media following, it could be connected to that as well, because 11th house can be like community and social media. So there could be something kind of changing in that part of your chart. You also could be looking at your goals and wishes and hopes for the future, kind of going through a transition at this point as well, because the 11th house is connected to your goals and wishes as well. Gemini rising, Uranus just went into your sign. If you are feeling a little extra unpredictable lately, that is the nature of Uranus. Uranus likes to be a little disruptive. It likes to point out kind of where we can feel stuck and stagnant and really likes to bring in some kind of exciting change. And I was just talking to a friend this morning, and he said his Gemini rising partner has had a beard for like as long as they've known each other. And the day that Uranus went into Gemini, he shaved it off and has a mustache now. Like, your first house, if you're Gemini rising, is your physical appearance, it's identity, it's your self-expression, it's your attitude and your approach to life. So you could just be embracing a little bit of the new, a little bit of the shocking, a little bit of like, why haven't I tried that before? Why haven't I done this before? So yeah, it's just it's sort of kind of giving to me like a little bit of new lease on life, and also enjoy Venus going through your first house for this month, as well as Venus is going to kind of increase like just socialization, pleasure, wanting to like take in like an artistic thing, or just simply just because Venus is about delight and pleasure, and she's going through your first house. So this kind of feels like to me like go out there and socialize a little bit, or just it's like about doing things that you've never done before, but also I think having a little bit of social pleasure this month for you as well. So that's separate from the full moon energy, but I still wanted to mention it. Cancer. So we have, what's going on for you? Oh, yes. Okay. I was like, where's the full moon? Oh, only in your opposite sign, right? So Cancer rising, definitely a very active full moon for you. Reminder, you are ruled by the moon. So the moon cycles, what the moon's doing, it's all very connected to your energy, your vitality. The old cliche of like, oh, cancers are moody is partially true, and it's really because the moon fluctuates so much, and she has so many of these. We witness her cycles every month, and you're kind of directly tied to those cycles. So during a full moon, it's like a heightening of activity. It's a peak of activity. So there's probably a lot going on for you in your partnership zone, relationships and partnerships. There's maybe like a heightening or quickening of activity here. There could be an ending to a partnership or relationship at this time as well. Or you could feel like maybe that you're kind of outgrowing something, or that it's time for like a major check-in for you with a relationship as well. So, and because, the 7th, the 10th, the 1st, and the 4th are all angular houses. They all have a lot of energy to them. So a full moon happening in any angular house, you're just going to feel, even if it doesn't match the theme of partnership and relationship exactly. I feel like you're going to feel this full moon, especially because this is Cancer season. The sun is in your sign. A reminder too, we have Jupiter in your sign here too. And so Jupiter being this planet of expansion and prosperity and protection, it's exalted in the sign of Cancer. It can just do a little bit more good in this sign. And generally this year for you, from June of 2025 through June of 2026, this should be a time of personal expansion, a time of like maybe some travel, of saying yes to some sort of opportunity, of feeling some kind of personal growth for you this year. So I did want to mention that. Going back to this full moon being ruled by Saturn in your 10th house, maybe feeling like an awkward transition or awkward kind of feeling connected to career. Your career aspirations, your career goals, authority figures, what the world kind of knows you as with your personal or professional like reputation. Saturn is going to go retrograde here in a minute. So there might just be some transitions that you're feeling in this part of your chart. The need to like tweak something maybe in your professional life, or maybe your title and kind of what you're known as doesn't really match who you are anymore. There is a little bit of confusion here too with Neptune, but also, Neptune is confusion, but it also can be inspiration. It's like with this Saturn and Neptune kind of conjunction that we're all dealing with, it's like Neptune kind of wants to bring us as close to the divine as possible. And Saturn is like, well, what are the practical details about getting there? So there's definitely a difference in these energies. But with Neptune being in your 10th house, it's like you want something more creative. You want something more divinely inspired. That is connected to career, something more peaceful, something that's more like, like aligns with your vibe, that you're not trying to have to fight so hard for. So Just kind of keep it, just that's, I think, also part of this full moon story. Leo rising, we have the full moon for you in your 12th house. So, okay, what do I want to say? Nope, it's in your sixth. I lied. Okay, so the full moon in the sixth house is really going to bring your attention to, are you taking care of yourself? Is your health routine and kind of what you're putting in your body really kind of match what you need? Or is that needing some sort of tweaking? This could be some sort of ending or transition related to some sort of ongoing health issue. It could also have to do a lot with work. It could just be that there's a heightening of activity around the work for you. There's a flurry of activity of like having to sort of need to get things done or deadlines or any of those things. It could also call your attention that you could be maybe needing to sort of maybe change some of your work routines, or maybe they're not like as in alignment with you anymore. You could also be looking at like ending a job or getting another one, or it could be something related to like a gig or like freelance work. It also could have anything to do with pets as well, because sixth house can be something with your little, with our pets and our furry creatures in our lives can also be a sixth house matter as well. So any of these full moon themes of completion, of transitions, having to do with those sixth house matters, calling your attention to your ninth house here. This full moon ruled by Saturn. And maybe we're kind of rethinking what we think about the world. Maybe we're rethinking things along the lines of spirituality. Maybe we're changing our education path. Maybe there's something that we're wanting to do with a travel or other cultures that we're kind of maybe feeling that we need to do some sort of tweak or overhaul right now. Or also anything connected to publishing and media here as well. So Saturn is like, the structures are changing. We're not really sure if these structures are solid here right now, and this is sort of needing some kind of tweak. And is there anything else I want to talk about? I'm going to say Uranus going into your 11th house for these next few months. It's kind of giving me like the feeling of like really energizing, refreshing, or stimulating your social circles and professional networks. This is about networking, connecting with people that are different from you, that bring in some kind of exciting, progressive kind of viewpoint. It could be joining some sort of new professional or personal group, or like something with your professional, with your social affiliation, just kind of getting this electric kind of jolt of energy from Uranus. It could also just be it could also be related to your goals and hopes and wishes for the future, and like, maybe bringing in this sort of change. And like, I think I've been focusing on this thing for a long time, and I'm ready to sort of introduce some sort of new goals. But because it's Uranus, it sort of comes in out of nowhere, where it feels a little weird, essentially. So, Leo rising, we have a really intense new moon coming up for you, which we'll talk about on our new moon video. And you can also kind of get a peek of that in the July forecast as well. But just a little heads up for that. So Virgo rising. So full moon for you is falling in your 5th house. It was funny. My mom's a Virgo rising, and I recorded the July forecast. I was talking about the 5th house being about children, and we're all going to be on vacation together next week. And it's the first time that my mom has been with all our kids in like 3 years. And she's like, how crazy that's happening on a 5th house full moon for me and children. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So Virgo rising, this full moon for you, this could be a heightening of energy, a quickening of energy, a peak of energy, but also maybe a transition or an ending or release. And this is going to be connected to matters of children, matters of pregnancy, if that is applicable to you. It also could be a romantic thing as well. There could be a completion or ending in a romance here. It's kind of more likely that like, if there's been a connection that's kind of flimsy or kind of losing its spark, it's going to go out this full moon. It's like, we're done with it. If it's strong, it will stand up to this, because this full moon is kind of identifying these structures in our lives that need some improvement or need some repair, essentially. And so when it comes to romantic things, if someone's kind of hanging on by a thread, or if your intuition is saying this isn't really right, it's going to kind of go out around this full moon time. It is also could be calling your attention to a creative project, a hobby, a recreation, something that you do for fun. It could be like, hey, do I have any fun in my life? Am I having fun? This full moon could kind of call your attention to be like, hey, those things are important too. Or maybe that you're an artist and you're working on some sort of creative project and it's like not really going the way that you like expect. That might be going through some tweaks, or you might sort of change your approach to that here. But definitely calling your attention to things that you create and bring you pleasure in children with this full moon. This full moon, again, ruled by Saturn in Aries, it may be calling your attention to some financial stuff. Maybe there's been some fog or confusion on how to proceed with finances connected to investments, retirements, loans, financial aid, grants, that kind of thing, or shared money, like money that you share with a partner, your expenses, that kind of thing. That's going to be under some review right now with Saturn going retrograde in this part of your chart and Neptune being here as well. So there could be those themes sort of overlaid with this full moon. Uranus going into your 10th house may give you some brilliant inspiration, some out of the blue ideas, or some sudden disruption connected to career. It could be that like, oh, all of a sudden you want to do something different, or all of a sudden you want a different job, or there could be a change in your work that's sort of out of the blue. Or maybe you've always been like a 9-to-5 person. Maybe you want to work from home and have your own schedule. Maybe you want to do freelance, or maybe you've been freelance your whole life and now you want to a more predictable kind of job. Whenever Uranus comes in, it's going to kind of bring through that kind of electricity and that need for change in this department. So expect some themes connected to that from July through November through November this year. Libra rising. This full moon for you is happening in your 4th house. So this is, let's see, where am I at here? So there could be something going on with like your home, your living situation. It could be talking about, you could maybe be realizing it's time to move, or it's time to change something connected to my home. There could be something connected to family or a family dynamic here as well. That's like, hey, this, the way that we communicate with each other, it hasn't been great for a while. And I'm really noticing that our, just because Saturn is going retrograde in your 7th house of relationships, it's giving me family and or relationships or family relationships with this full moon. So it's going to call your attention to those things, whether it's about your literal home, something going on with your family. It just might be calling you to like, hey, I need to focus more on, connecting with my family and the security of it. That's hilarious. I love that you're okay. Sorry, there's a Libra rising commenting that she's reorganizing her entire kitchen. Love that. Okay, cool. Especially because Capricorn is related to like practical organization of things, and like, because Capricorn is an earth sign. It's like, what is real, what is right here, what is right now, and also what is the most efficient way of fucking doing shit. So I love that you're reorganizing your kitchen on this full moon. Sometimes full moons are not like life-changing things. Sometimes they're just very mundane things, but there's like a heightening of activity somewhere in your life. So I find that hilarious. So home and family themes for Libra rising. For Libra rising, I do want to mention Jupiter is moving through your 10th house. It started there last month, and it's going to be here until mid-June next year. So expansion, growth, opportunity in career, or things connected to professional, like a professional reputation. There could be a boost in your personal sort of status. This is good for like mentors and people that would be sort of coming to sort of help you with your career as well. Expect that, especially August. There's some actually really restrictive energy in August, but Jupiter gains some power in August because it's going to be rising. It's going to be rising as a daytime star. I can't remember why, but it's basically going to be more. It's going to be more and more visible in the sky starting in August because it's been under the beams of the sun. So when a planet is more visible in the sky, it's not under the beams of the sun. It gains a little bit of power. So I'm also going to say Libra rising. This could be time of sort of working out the kind of kinks in relationships as well. You're getting like a little preview of that with Saturn moving into your seventh house. So Saturn moving into Aries for some of you this year, kind of we got to get a preview of it, and then next year it could be like more committed relationships or having to work out the kinks in our committed relationships. And it could be that there's some sort of a little bit of lack of clarity or feeling like that those structures around relationships maybe aren't as solid right now. And Saturn could be pointing that out right now. So, okay. Scorpio, full moon for you is in your third house. So there's going to be a heightening of activity in anything related to communication projects, how you talk to people. This could be looking at like anything connected to sort of where you're living in like a general neighborhood sense. It could be events and activities connected to siblings, to your neighbors. I'm Scorpio rising. I'm getting together with all my siblings in a couple days, which is funny. It's also travel. It's also anything kind of travel related. Not necessarily like super long distance, like I've never been there before. That's totally out of the box for me, but like more mundane kind of quick travel is third house. It could also be that we're learning something that I wouldn't say like learning something new, but like finishing something up, like related to communication and or learning here. This is going to call your attention to work stuff though, too, work and health, because again, ruled by Saturn, it's going to station retrograde. It's connected to Neptune retrograde. Something about what you're doing for work, work routines, who you're working for, what job you're doing, or how you're taking care of yourself or health. There's needing some maybe some tweaks or changes, or perhaps the structures are not feeling as solid there, or we're kind of needing to sort of make some changes to kind of streamline things a little bit. So we're going to be getting some more clarity in this part of our chart as well. Let's go ahead and look at Sagittarius. I was like, brain melted. My apologies. Sagittarius rising. The full moon is for you, is happening in your second house of money. So, this could be like, hey, like we actually have, we're organizing, we are practically organizing our budget. We're looking at kind of what we're spending money on, what we don't need to be spending money on, because remember, we think Capricorn, we think practical, we think organized, we're thinking we're not fucking around with like, with extra, with fluff. Capricorn wants to kind of streamline. So there could be something connected to finances, your cash, your movable assets, and also your skills and talents that kind of help to support your life and your livelihood. What am I doing? What's happening? Brain. So definitely could be something kind of going on here. I'm going to say also too, Jupiter is going to be making itself known in your eighth house. Eighth house is shared money. That's investments, loans, inheritance, any kind of shared financial matter. Jupiter is going to access, like if this would be a good year to refinance, or to, if you need credit to buy a home, or, if you're needing the backing and resources of other people, Jupiter is going to help you connect to that, or get you to like the right creditor or person to help you with that as well. So I just want to mention that. In Sagittarius, let's see. I do want to kind of call your attention to fifth house. This full moon is ruled by Capricorn in your fifth house of children, of romance, of creative projects, and our passions and joy. So Saturn is like maybe kind of dampening a little passion as far as like romance sort of goes. Maybe we like to be a little bit more spontaneous, kind of in fun and in relationships and stuff. But Saturn is kind of saying maybe we need some more commitment here, or maybe we're just experiencing some sort of delays or snags here. Or we're like not just looking for anybody. It's got to be like someone specific, or like a special kind of person, especially because Neptune is here. And this could be about like really connecting to your passions, really connecting to your creativity, or, connecting to like the real spirit of someone in a romantic relationship. However, with Saturn stationing retrograde here, we could be looking for something different. We could be wanting to kind of change up our creative projects or hobbies. Or also anything in relation to children in pregnancy. We're like rethinking it. maybe redoing it or just looking at the structures around it. It could be like, how am I raising my child? Am I raising them correctly, or do I need to sort of change how I'm doing it? It could be something connected to that too. Capricorn rising, this full moon in your first house, I think you'll probably, you will be feeling that. It's going to be a full moon is gonna so number one, the moon is fallen and the moon is in detriment in Capricorn. The moon rules Cancer. The moon in Cancer, she's very connected to her body, she's very connected to emotions and nurturing, and the moon in Capricorn is like, will push itself too hard. It's very resilient, but it can sometimes like sort of delay gratification and pleasure and taking care of itself until like all of the things are accomplished, until we've like satisfied our goals and like agenda. So with this full moon in your first house, I do really want you to pay attention to like your physical body, your emotions. It's going to be more noticeable under the full moon. Like maybe where aren't we getting our needs met? Where aren't we, feeling like a solid sense of structure and stability in our lives? You're going to be a little bit more emotional under this full moon, or just feeling like a little bit more charged up under this full moon. And this also could bring your attention to a physical, like a matter connected to your physical body. It could be like, hey, I'm ready to chop my hair off. I don't know, or like change something about my appearance, or perhaps it's calling your attention to like a physical health matter as well. But you're just going to be more connected to these immediate physical parts of yourself, and you're going to be a little bit more emotional under this full moon. It also is kind of a signal of a chapter of your life changing. You're ending something right now. You're kind of in a feeling of like, I feel like you're in a little bit of a period of transition under this full moon. And this full moon is ruled by Saturn in your fourth house right now as well. So there could be something around your home or around your family that's on shaky ground or needs some tweaking, where that you're going to be going through some changes with that, because Saturn, again, the planet that represents structure and discipline and rules, who rules Capricorn, it's going to start to go retrograde here in your fourth house. So it could just kind of signal, it could signal like, hey, our home is feeling a little cramped, a little small. We need to do some projects and really kind of get going on renovating it. But we're not really sure exactly how it's going to work with Neptune, that planet of confusion there. So it could be kind of calling that, calling that sort of into your awareness as well. Capricorn, I do want to mention as well, one more thing is that we have, you have Jupiter in an angular house until next June. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, protection, magnification. I would say there are these protective elements in Cancer. So there's going to be something about your relationships and partnerships that are going to expand for you. Like, this is in general, this year is a good time to meet someone as far as a romantic partner goes. Or if you're going to go into business with someone, this could be, generally this year could be good for that as well. And like just kind of calling in helpful people into your relationship sphere, just because Jupiter in Cancer is abnormally protective, and it's really able to do, I think, like the most good it can while in this sign, and it happens to be your partnership sector as well. And it could be like best friends or just calling in more, but it's gonna expand it's gonna expand partnership for you. So Aquarius rising, full moon is in Capricorn, and this is falling in your 12th house. This is going to like maybe reveal something to you that was previously hidden, or hidden from you, whether it's your own kind of psychological stuff, or whether it is something that was deliberately kind of hidden from you. It could be about maybe some hidden information kind of coming to light, as well as Saturn rules this full moon and falls in your third house of information and communication. But also it could just sort of call your attention to like rest. It's like, Capricorn is sort of like, how can we maximize the efficiency of like our private time, our rest time, what we do behind closed doors, because this is falling in your 12th house of privacy, of hidden things, of I think of 12th house when I am in my bedroom by myself, just reading, and I'm like alone with my own thoughts. It's 12th house. That's 12th house energy. It could be more about like, am I taking care of myself mentally, spiritually? Maybe what am I ignoring? Am I too focused on my outward kind of work and health matters here? Because you do have a lot going on there right now, a lot of expansion coming in for you in this part of your chart. But I would say rest, retreat, but also like because it's Capricorn, it sort of wants to work hard. So it could be that we're working on a project that we're working on a project in the background. But also could just be like some sort of private realization, or we might just feel more called to like be in nature or somewhere where we're kind of like a little bit more isolated. But it could also just bring your attention to sort of mental health and spiritual health matters as well. Saturn is retrograde in your third house. It rules this full moon. There could be something maybe Saturn in Aries kind of wants to help you like solidify what you know, be an authority on information. It could be about like you're learning something new and it's sort of taking a lot of work, or you're working on some kind of communication project. There could be something shifting on how you kind of get around and transport yourself, or something about your neighborhood. There could be something weird going on with siblings or kind of neighbors as well. Third house is always, there's always a lot of topics to cover, but just know Saturn is stationing retrograde in this part of your chart, so it could kind of talk to us about you know this third house kind of information. And because you are traditionally ruled by Saturn, I would say that you are more sensitive to what Saturn is doing, because Saturn rules, Saturn rules Aquarius, so rules your first house. So anything connected to appearance, body, physical vitality, and health could also be connected into, and like kind of maybe like reevaluating some of that as well. Okay, so Pisces. Full moon for you is happening in the 11th house. It could be an ending, a transition, a releasing. Maybe we're like letting go of an old goal or wish. It's not really like in alignment with us anymore. There could be a flurry of activity connected to friends, to your social group, or your professional kind of networking, or any groups or clubs or organizations that you belong to. It could be like a lot of activity there, or it could also feel like, this friendship doesn't really fit me anymore. This dynamic doesn't really fit me. This outmoded affiliation I have, I'm going to kind of like let it go, is maybe kind of what's kind of coming in here. Or a friend could, honestly, like a friend could be going through a crisis. Sometimes a full moon is not about us. It's about like the people involved in that area of life that is sort of falling in our chart. This full moon is ruled by Saturn, who is going to go retrograde in a couple days, who is connected to Neptune, which can be fog and confusion. I feel like maybe there's like a reorganization of your finances connected to this full moon too, or we're not sure what we want to spend our money on, or how we do it, or how we earn our money, or where it's coming from. There's like the structures connected to that are maybe in some transition, or it needs like a little bit of reorganization or something, possibly connected in with this energy. Saturn is going to be moving back into your first house for a couple months, but not till September. So we have one last little go round with Saturn, and I want you to kind of maybe notice, if you're Pisces rising, how has Saturn kind of felt since the end of, I think it's the end of May. That's out of your sign and into your second house, and like how do you feel? Because there's like one last little lesson that you're going to tangle with Saturn from like September through, I believe, end of February. And I do want to mention Uranus for you as well, because Uranus is disruption, rebellion, change. That's coming to your fourth house of home and family. So that could symbolize, it depends on your own personal birth chart if you have planets here, or where maybe your IC, that lowest kind of part of your chart is exactly. But Uranus coming into your fourth house, you could just notice a little preview of this energy from July through September of noticing like is there's just something changing about your family dynamic? Are there changes coming up with your home? Are you like all of a sudden feeling like we need more space or we need to downsize, or I feel trapped living in this place that I've always lived. I want to go travel the world. Or I want to get an RV, you know, and or it could just be that family is kind of look different for you. It could be like I've never really wanted to settle down, but now I all of a sudden want to settle down, you know, with Uranus moving through here, and that could be shocking to you. So think restless change, kind of sudden news kind of things coming in for home and family and living situation for you from July through September, or just merely a preview of what is to come with that. So, um, okay. And I think that's all she wrote for today. Let me go ahead and exit this. So thanks for joining me. And I hope everyone's getting some clarity on the full moon. And if not, just sort of roll with the energy. If you're wanting to work with me and look at your personal birth chart, you can go to my website, docstaroracle.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes or description, like wherever the fuck you leave it on YouTube. So thanks again for connecting with me, and thanks again for saying hello. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you like this video, make sure you like it, leave me a comment, let me know what's going on for you. So happy full moon, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.